Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Visibility Era, the podcast. Today, I'm here with a special guest. No Lydia today, but we have a special guest, John Hanneman, and we were actually on his show not too long ago, the Spiritual Rockstar podcast, where he did this incredible energy reading scan of both Lydia and I. And hint, hint, we have some past lives together. So take a moment, go over to his podcast, see what he's up to. But Daniel, we're having you on the show today so that we can talk a little bit about your show, what you've built and created. So welcome to Visibility Era.
I'm so grateful to be here, Bridget. One of my great passions is doing podcasting with my Spiritual Rockstar podcast show. So I'm grateful to be here to share about that and to be with you.
Yeah, totally. I was looking up some stats before we got on here today, and I'm gonna say this before I even go into it. This was on Reddit, so who knows how accurate it is, but I've seen a very similar statistic that most podcasters don't get past like episode 5 or 10. And you have 372 podcast episodes. So give us a little bit of the backstory. Why did you start a podcast? How on earth did you how do you have so many episodes? How are you doing it?
Yeah, it's just consistency. I just I've been plugging away. There's been times when I've been producing one per week. Then I got to producing two per week all last year, as far as like just the main podcast. And I have a brother or sister or whatever podcast called Just Two Conscious Guys Talking, which contributes to the overall platform. They're kind of connected a little bit. So, but the lead show is Spiritual Rockstar podcast. So I just produce a lot of shows. And the reason why, number one reason why, is because I just love doing it. I trust doing the things that I love. And it just so happens that, yeah, a lot of good things happen for my overall business from the podcast. But that's when people like want to know what my secret is. I say there is actually no secret for me. Like I literally just stay consistent. And yes, I ask my guests to promote, and they just really do. And then we promote. But we're not doing anything like all these ninja tricks to get it up. We're at 2.5%, the top 2.5%. And part of that is because it is doing well, but part of it is too, like there are so many people that aren't consistent. There's so many people that just did the 5 episodes and gave up, or it stalls out. I hear it all the time. People say, "Yeah, I need to get back into my podcasting," and so yeah, that's the main thing, just the consistency more than anything else, and good guests. People also, I mean, I will add a little. Okay, thanks. I will add a little bit more. People do love the energy of the show. They're like, "Oh, I just love your guests," and they're good conversations, and I love your energy and I don't bring up the podcast. Some people just will start talking to me and be like, I'm watching your podcast. I love your podcast. I watch your podcast or whatever. And it's the banter, the energy that's established because I'm not typically just an interviewer type on there. Every once in a while, depending on the guest. Some guests are really like, I just need to talk, and I let them do that. But the vast majority of them is very much of a banter and our dedication. And then we have a focus for the show too, that it's focused on really getting down to the truth of the matter. I think even on your guys' episode, I'm like, come on, PR, maybe we're just throwing our money away. We don't need PR, and like just playfully to get more to the truth. So then we reveal more of the gold, right? PR is, can be the game changer that actually starts getting sales going. Like people think sales will take forever. It can happen like sometimes overnight or in a very short period of time, and it's pretty consistent, right? So yeah, we got to be able to cover those kind of things. But I'm willing to disagree with my guests, where some hosts don't. They will just always agree with everything. Okay, yes, you're so wonderful, you know everything. But I will test my guests sometimes playfully, because I know it'll bring their passion and more of their truth out.
It's so true because it definitely did that. Because we're like, no, like we'll tell you, like why this is the bee's knees, like really. So I appreciated that, truthfully. So what I'm kind of hearing from you is consistency is number one. Now, did you have like when you first started recording, were you like, okay, I'm gonna put out episodes every Tuesday and Thursday, or did you have some sort of cadence?
Yes, yes, yes. And I've changed that cadence at times just because of, life comes up, but I still stay consistent. I've never dropped down below once per week. It's either been twice a week or once per week. And I think I started it at twice per week, then I went to once per week, then I went to, like I had different times when the scheduling's been different. I can't remember, I just changed it a couple of times, I think, but I always kept it at least minimum once per week. And the truth is, the more shows you produce, the higher you'll go up in a ranking. So if I really wanted to get to the top 1% and beyond, like I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could do it, but one way is just simply produce even one more show per week would do a lot to get me to that level, like, top 1% and beyond. Like, I mean, people don't realize how simple it can be. It isn't rocket science, but it took. I mean, I've had this show for 4 years now. I mean, that's another thing people have to realize. It's not like this happens overnight necessarily. Although I have helped one of my clients get in the top 5%, like within a week or two, like because if you load it up right up in the beginning, with a number of podcasts, and you do a lot of pre-promotion and hype, quite frankly, or PR kind of, up front, then you can really explode that show right away. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting because we didn't know that. Like we're not privy to this information. So thank you for giving us a little bit of the lowdown with cadence for releasing episodes. It could be, more than what we're doing. And the second thing that I heard you say was you really love the topic that you're speaking about. And I think that goes for everyone. Like Lydia and I couldn't do this show, first of all, if we didn't love to like the banter from just the two of us, but if we didn't love the topics that we were speaking about, it wouldn't be very fun. So I feel like this is a great time for you to share a little bit more about, who you are as a person and what you do as a business owner.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So I help the healers, the coaches that are spiritually oriented and connected to really trust their gifts and their power at a whole nother level to expand their businesses. And then, I help them as a energy scanner, intuitive business coach type of person that can just see right through them. And, you know, uh, I'm known sometimes to just people just to tell their story, and I'm just like, no, let's not do this. Like I just did it the other day with somebody. She's like, "What?" Like, no, yeah, don't do that either. Like, so, and it's how people love me. It's not that I'm a jerk. It's just like I just like no. This is no. Don't keep with your story, right? And so I just help people to crack through those stories so they can really see who they really are and their gifts, their ability, their soul mission, their purpose, all that stuff. And then we're dialing in who they are, and creating a phenomenal foundation for their business. Whether they're just getting started, trying to just get clients, so to speak, and get their business going, or if they're already at six figures or beyond, multi six figures or beyond, to help them to get the structure of their business and the energetics of business set up so that they have ease and growth. The ease and the growth, because there is more growth possible when there's ease. When we're very heavy, it's hard to keep growing. Eventually, you hit too many limits. So with the way my intuitiveness and the way I hold people in an energetic space, and then yes, I do energy clearings and all that stuff, but a lot of it's just like the energy that I am and I'm holding with them, and then having them just realize, like, feng shuiing their energy and their strategy and tactics, so that things flow well and get more results. Like, it's a huge part of it. And one of the biggest things that stop people is they just not showing up enough. They're not consistent enough, whether it's podcasts, making offers, doing their marketing, whatever it is. So I help them to get, one of the keys is, of many, is just getting them really consistent and getting them through whatever their blocks are around doing that. So yeah, that's all part of it.
Super cool. You strike me as someone who's like very grounded as well, but you have this like playful, fun, light nature.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
do you feel like that supports you as a practitioner? Because sometimes maybe people are new to the world of energetics and they're like, well, I don't want to work with someone who's totally in the air. I want
Mm.
someone who's grounded in practical reality. And like, even the way that you explained that to me, it felt like just very realistic too, of like how this can look in your business. So, do you think that like helps you as just your personality too?
Oh yeah, I think so. I feel like a lot of people are drawn to me because of my fun nature. I have had people say, "Yeah, you're just real and you're fun," and so that was all part of There's deeper reasons I'm sure why they're reaching out to me, but that's one of the things people say. And the like recently, like I was just talking about this on social media today, and I had a flood of new because I do this energy scanning thing you mentioned earlier. And with the energy scans I do, like, man, they're so powerful. Some of those 3-minute energy scans I'll do like on a live platform or in a podcast. And I do these 3-minute energy scans. Like on one show, I did it as recently. And one person I did it, I did a few of them, but one of the people like referred like tons of people like to be like I literally am booked for the rest of the month, like over 20 leads because one person got so much out of 3 minutes worth. And she's on my sales team basically now. She's a believer. I mean, she's working with me, she's signing up, for the next steps and everything. And because when somebody sees like we're showing people like this is like what's available to all of us, I think is really what gets transmitted when I'm tuning in intuitively and psychically into people. And then they can feel the vibration of it too. And they're like, whoa, I want that, right? And then that just and I see some of my other clients, doing that in their own way too, getting a rush of new leads because they've got something cool to offer, right?
Mhm.
And so I do energy scan training. That is part of my gig too, is training people to do that, to create that effect and honor their gifts that they have. And as a foundation, like we should all know how to tune in and do energy scanning. I feel anyway, and so it's one of my missions is to I was starting with the healers and coach types, but I want to keep expanding that as my legacy moving forward.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. See, like, even as you talk about it, I feel your personality come through, and
Right.
that's something that you do on the podcast too. So, one thing I'd love to hear from you, many of the people listen either want to be on more podcasts or they want to start their own. So, how can they infuse more of like themselves into it? Because no one wants to listen to a boring podcast. Like, well,
Right. Right. I turn off boring podcasts on the regular. I'm like, okay, we're here today. And, I'm like, oh my God, click off. I would love to listen. I'm sure they're saying something good, but if it's presented in a boring way, you just don't care. This is the key to this or that. And you're just like, oh my God. And I'm sure at some points in my career I've been boring. Okay, sorry, but yeah, that's the last thing you want to be is boring. So you want to be, as engaging, love, and fun as possible. A lot of opportunities are there for you as a guest if you just reach out to people. I get like people reaching out like through email all the time. I'm like, that's the worst way, one of the worst ways to try to get on my show. I mean, I'm gonna be like, all right, send in your application. Let me look it over. All right, I don't know. Okay, let me keep kicking the tires. Like it's going to be more than that energy. But if you reach out to me on social media, now I'll probably get a rush of people. But you reach out to me on social media, you send me a voice clip, or like, oh, I've been watching your show. It's so awesome. You're just the best, Daniel, or whatever. I mean, if you're being genuine, obviously, but and I watched this one episode. You're specific, like honestly, people just melt. Like there's human beings at the other side of like these shows, and even though that we have criteria, like I do, we're gonna if we can't bring you on the show, we're gonna try to do what we can to support you and share you with the world. And because we're just gonna fall in love with you because you're in love with us, and if we feel good connection to you, we feel you add value, we're gonna do what we can to support you. So I think like people avoid being more direct with people and reaching out like that, but they feel like, well, I feel weird, like bothering them or whatever they think. And it's like, no, I mean that's what I bother people on the regular then because like, I don't mind reaching out because I know only X amount of people get back to me, but I don't care because
yeah.
that's all that's needed. So
It's such a great reminder, and this actually kind of bridges, the work that we do. We help people do those reach outs, and the biggest thing is human connection and like real human touch. Like if they're saying, "Daniel, I love the show. I just listened to this episode with Elise. Like it was fantastic. I loved it." You're more likely to be receptive. I'm curious if you've ever like we're not into AI pitches. We think it's a really bad idea for business owners who are trying to get onto a show. Do you have any thoughts on AI pitches or trying to get on shows using AI?
Interesting. I have not received my first AI pitch that I'm aware of. My
Okay.
assistant gets the emails, so if they're doing it that way, I don't know. I haven't seen any on social media, for example. I haven't seen a bot come to me with "Oh, you should bring this person on the show." So, but my own opinion on utilizing such things is, especially in this field that I'm in, we're spiritually connected. We're all about energy, and AI doesn't have an energy that it feels connected, right? So it's just kind of, it might be enrolling to the mind, some of the things that AI might say, but it's not enrolling in terms of the energy. I'm sure there's people using AI very effectively in all kinds of ways for copywriting and outreaches and whatnot. But in my industry, I'd be surprised if that many people are able to use it in a big way and see success, because I we're too sensitive to energy, and we're like, oh, something's off, I don't know, and it's going to throw things off. That's my own take. I could be wrong, but that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I could just cut through it with a knife. It's like, no, not interested.
Yep.
That's not,
Totally.
it's not real." And we can feel that. I think as we become more intuitive and sensitive, we're going to be able to
Oh
see
yeah.
the divide more and more. So even more important for, why your work is needed right now.
Yes, that's all part of the impetus of why I'm doing this. We need to get connected with source to the next levels so that we can be as prosperous as possible in our businesses as healers, light leaders, coaches, whatever the label might be. But like to bring our work on the world, because I keep saying AI is never going to be able to upload and download with source, like as far as I can tell. I don't see that happening. If it happens, I don't think it's going to happen for a long time. So, so that's one of your only unique, well, you have many, but like one of your primary unique characteristics that'll be really hard to replace. So, so yeah, definitely want to harness that aspect to yourself.
Yeah. So one thing that we did when we were on your show is you did a reading for Lydia and I, and Lydia and I are basically in our second marriage. Well, she's not married yet, but I always joke like this is my second marriage. We're together, and that was a really cool thing that you did on your show. So we've had like some other podcast hosts on here who are all about like structure of the show and like doing something every single time so that your audience knows. And then we have some hosts that are, a little bit more free flowing and just want to move with wherever the conversation takes them.
Mhm.
So, do you have like a formula to your show? Do you do something every single time?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I have an intro and outro to the show, which I have not changed since. We might have tweaked it once or something, but like I have not changed throughout. And it's debatable. Like one of the things we did change is we're doing like what everybody does, take a clip from the interview and put it up in the front before you do the whole intro and everything. So that's, one thing we did. But yeah, I mean, the formula is I bring a lot of energy up front because it's early in the show when they're deciding if they're going to continue to listen, right? So I'm always like, this is the most amazing. And they know like a half of it's just fun putting it on, but they also sense some realness to it too. And they're like, oh, okay. And he's just fun. So let's just listen in. Let's see what happens. And so I always do that. I say hello to the guest. We still do the bio. Sometimes I wonder if I should. But I kind of enjoy sharing their background, right? So I just do that part. And then I try to keep it brief though. We get into the show. The show is usually pretty organic. Sometimes I do go by questions that were sent to me. Often I don't. Most of the time I don't. And we just kind of free flow. And then my guest will make, oh, get my free gift or free offer or pay or could be paid. And for people that are doing like a straight sale through the show, I want to say, they do set up an affiliate link with me, and that's great, because then it's like I've got all these episodes out there, and there is the potential for a lot of possibilities for everybody to grow together, right? And so I just love that idea. I haven't seen a lot of money coming in because I haven't done it a lot, but I've been incorporated that. And then I also do my energy scan segment at the end of the show, which you referenced earlier today, where I tune into the guests. And then what happens is, if if I want to, like, that is an opportunity. I just help the guests in so many ways. Like, I spotlighted them in a way through that. I've also helped them see that, the audience could see more of who they are. And then I help the audience because they see themselves in that person, right? Okay, and brings them closer together. And then the other thing is, then I also have offers for people to get my free gift at my website. And then I'm talking about, like, you can work with me and this is how it would work, real quick. And, but, the people that have become the clients the most are not, by far, not the audience. That's just kind of like, in the background, like maybe that's doing something right that I kick as far as like business building there. But it's really about the guests. It's about the guests. The guests are the ones that lead me to joint venture partners, where we do more together, and then there's more circulation there. Or yeah, they'll interview me on their show, things like that, or they become clients. They really do. And only the people that are a good fit. I am not like gunning for, like, gotta fill my programs with like all these different, type of people. Like, I'm a soul line type of person. I'm like, if it lines up that you seem to be a fit, great. You better be pretty cool. You better be pretty fun to work with, or I'm not going to be too interested in working with you anyway. Like, certainly on one to one. I mean, forget about it. You got to be rock star. You got to be like a rock star. At least in your energy. And your intention and commitment. And then, I have, now I've developed groups again, which I had groups for years before, but I've developed groups again, and now I've got my energy scan training, and, I don't even have the intent on that. Like, yeah, no knuckleheads,
They have to be a spiritual rock star.
they've got to be ready. Yeah.
Very cool. When you think back to, like that first episode 4 years ago to how you run the show now, what's changed? Have you become a better interviewer? Have you done anything differently? Have you learned something along the way?
Yeah. I think, I don't know. That's a great question. I hadn't really thought about. Hey, what have I learned, like, during this time? I feel that, I think I've just gotten smoother. I've just gotten stronger with the interviewing, and I think that's a tip I would have for other people who are thinking about developing their own show. You might feel like you might feel like you suck or you're not that good in the beginning, and you just have to get over that. I never really felt that way, but I know, like, because I interviewed people, like, and I did have one of the guests says, "You're a better interviewer now than the last time." I was like, "Oh, that's pretty bad, I guess, the first time." But you just get sharper with it as you go along. So but yeah, the consistency thing is something that just is not a new thing to me, but like just seeing how powerful that is, and just to double down on that. And but also just yeah, I think just that everybody's just looking for love and to be supported. I've had so many. I've Neil Donald Walsh. I've had Judith Orloff on recently. I mean, those are the more recent people. I just had a guy who's got $1 billion company on. It hasn't aired yet, but like he's going to be aired soon. And I mean, you're meeting with some really impressive people, and it's just because I have a podcast that's doing well. So the opportunity to get in front of anybody just because you have a show, as much as anything, is huge. It's huge potential. And one of the things too is, like, I'm learning from my guests. I mean, sometimes, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I know this stuff really well, but honestly, but good reminders, right? And then some of the guests, I don't know the stuff they're talking about that well. So I'm like, I'm constantly learning. So that's what's cool, is the willingness to be humble. Some people don't want to interview people because they want to be in the starlight all the time. But like for me, I feel like I starlight myself anyway by my comments to what they're saying. I mean, I get starlighted anyway. So I don't know. So I just continue to trust being maybe a little bit edgier at times. Maybe I've learned that a little bit, but yeah, I just think like I just improved my skills in doing it mostly.
And how cool that you've had some really big guests on, like, that's another part to having a show is you almost become your own little small media company. You have a platform that
Right.
others might want to be on. So, like, in those cases, did you reach out to them? Did they reach out to you? Like, how did that interaction go?
Yeah, they're always reaching out to me first and foremost, and then I always am reaching out to people because even though it's easy for me to have enough guests, because I have criteria, you have to have your business at a certain level, you have to have your following at a certain level at this point, and what is this like year? Well, actually, year five. We're in year five right now. It's like, yeah, that's the criteria. There's criteria. And so, but still, there's plenty of people that still meet that criteria, even though it's a smaller pool. And there's just way more than enough people. So I'm constantly, I ask for referrals from the people that come on as guests, and then I'm just constantly networking and meeting people, and like that's like the huge opportunity. Like, yeah, what I can do for you is you could be on my show if they're a good fit, right? So it's like and then people are constantly referring people, and even if they're not a fit, they may become fans anyway. They're like, well, I understand. And like, so you got people talking about you on that level too, like check out a show, and then they engage in a show. They may still become listeners, even though maybe they didn't fit for the show just yet. So you're being talked about, and that's a really good thing that unfolds through it. And yeah, we turn people away, but that's another thing. I think that's another growth area for somewhat for myself and for others. We don't want to turn anybody down. Like, yeah, you're great too. Everybody should be on the show, but it's just a matter of like have whether it's your business or a podcast, have standards and then just commit to it and just stick with your standards. Don't, start bending them all the time for people, because that also will affect your overall success in anything. Like you have to stick to those standards. But yeah, most a lot of the guests that came on, Neil Donald Walsh, Drew Orloff, they came to me because I believe in part anyways, because I am listed as a top podcast. So it's earned in that way.
So cool. So cool.
Yeah.
What's next for the show? Do you have brand sponsorships? Like, do you do anything like that to monetize the show? Like, where do you see this going?
Yeah, I mean, I could totally go in that direction. But the amount of money again that you can make, unless you're getting millions of downloads, which I'm not at that level. Even being top 2.5%, we're still in the thousands of downloads more so than, millions of downloads per show. So yeah, I mean, we're just not going to make that much money. So to us, it's not worth it. Now, if I ever found a sponsor I thought was just totally awesome, and the show grows to a point where it feels like it'd be worth it, yeah, I could totally consider it. But at this point, it just doesn't make sense. I feel like it makes more sense to just focus on the guests and also what I have to offer, as part of the show, rather than bringing in a sponsor at this point. So that's where I'm at with that. Different perspectives on that, I suppose, but that's the way I've done it so far.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point actually that you bring up. It's like the show's not big enough where you're going to be making a lot of money for me. It's sponsorship. So why move the audience away from like what's already
Right.
in front of you and to take away from like the relationship between you and the guest, which has really been the most fruitful, anyway for you. So yeah, that's interesting. I think we see these sponsorships as like the end all be all. Like you're listening to the Joe Rogan podcast and of course he's talking about, athletic greens or whatever it is these days, and that seems like, oh, that's the golden ticket, but I appreciate your perspective on that one. That's interesting.
He's got gazillions of listeners. It makes sense. He can do that. He can put what 5 minutes or more of ads in the front of the show and get away with that. And his loyal listeners apparently will listen in. I don't, but somebody does. Otherwise, they wouldn't be getting paid all that money, right? So yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of creative sponsorships you can do, and there's so many. That's why for the right person here and there, I like to develop these ideas for a podcast and flesh them out and help them to launch a podcast because there's so many different directions you can go. I mean, you can, up level sponsorships by, you know, uh, you could have like you could do a sponsorship with the people that are coming on as guests. Like, you want to
Yep.
become a sponsor, and we could be plugging, the program from one of the shows, again and again. I could say, and if you want to know more about them, check show number 137 or whatever, right? So, I mean, there's a big possibilities of different directions you can go. It's just a matter of honestly, what lights you up is what's going to succeed the most. Like for me, it just doesn't light me up like these kind of these sponsorship ideas at this point. So I know it won't do much then. So I mean, I have had people reach out to me, not a lot, but a few here and there, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just no, thank you. I'm not going in that direction.
Mm. So as we start to wrap things up, what is lighting you up? You have the energy scan to offer, you have the energy scanning training, you have the show. What else is Daniel bringing to the world and excited about?
But it's the energy scan training all day and all night, like as much as anything else, anyway. So yeah, that's the number one thing because it is people have these abilities to be able to tune into people and to sharpen up what they're able to do with healing and coaching and everything. I mean, if we had a doctor, it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's good protocol just to kind of, give this sort of medication or this sort of, treatment or whatnot. And they did no diagnosis, they did no assessment, in depth for the situation. People would call it malpractice, right? A lot of energy healers are shooting blind. They kind of get a
Mm.
sense of what's going on, maybe through questions and answers they get answered. But do you really know what's going on? Like, how many doctors just talk to their patient like, and it's something serious, like, oh, that's good enough. We don't need to use machines. Like, you want to get more precise. Then you learn something like energy scanning, and then, um, man, and the energy scans themselves are profound. Like the insights people get can change their life right on the spot. So yeah, it's energy scanning all day, all night, like first and foremost, and I always love working in depth with the right people, just a few people at a time on the one-to-ones. And then I'm developing more and more, from the energy scan training for people to grow their businesses. But yeah, that's kind of the front door. It's like, come in, you get connected up with source at the next level, just like the show. Get connected up with source at the next level. Use these gifts you have, prosper your business at the next level, and let's, upgrade everybody's abilities and gifts and vibration because that's what happens through it.
Yeah, yeah. And if any of our listeners are new to this work and you're like spiritual what, scanning what, go
Right, right,
listen to
right,
his
right.
show. Like go check out the show because you're going to feel his energy, you're going to understand he'll talk about more of these concepts. He's bringing on great guests who can explain these things way more and then you'll be like, "Okay, I need this like yesterday."
Mhm.
So I love this. Amazing, amazing. Where can people find you, Daniel?
Yeah, so you can go to yoursacredpurpose.com, and I do have a free gift there that is very popular, the Meditate and Make Money meditation. So it opens up your energy and chakras. It gets you an abundance energy. And people say there's coding in it and whatnot. Yeah, there is, but it's like it just channels through me those codes. Like I don't even know what's coding. It's not like I know what it is. It's just like it's cool stuff, and you get to inquire about how more money wants to come into your business. I don't know. Like I have one person that was doing it every single day for 2, 3 years. Last report, and so she said, "My business just keeps growing every day. I know it's because of that meditation, that free meditation." And then she even embedded it in one of her programs with my permission. She's like, "Can I use?" I'm sure. Advertise me. It helps people. Sure, you
Right.
can put that free meditation right in there. Totally check that out. You can also find me. Obviously on all the podcast platforms on YouTube as Spiritual Rockstar. Podcast. So check that out, and I know you'll enjoy those shows and gain from them if you're a spiritual entrepreneur. And yeah, all the social media, of course, all the usual stuff. You guys know I'm on Facebook the most. Where does this guy hang out? I hang out on Facebook the most. I'm old school, I guess. They always say to people over 40 or whatever.
I
And then
love Facebook. Lydia's
yeah.
always like, "What? I love it."
but I'm also on Instagram and LinkedIn, and I'm on X, but I barely, barely even go there. But yeah, so yeah, I'm all over the place, I suppose.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming today and just chatting with me. This was really a great episode. I appreciate it, Daniel.
Thank you so much, Bridget. It's been an honor, pleasure.
Sweet, sweet. And thank you everyone for listening to another episode of Visibility Era, the podcast.